Welcome to the first volume of Salsa Challenge Method of Teaching Salsa Dancing. In this video, we're going to show you the basic rhythm patterns. So of those first 10 elements that you know you're going to learn in this whole series, you're going to learn the first 4 on this video. So you'll be a long ways there. So we're really talking about basic rhythm patterns. A really important thing to note at the beginning is that a lot of people just want to get on and start dancing. And so they do the basic rhythm patterns really fast, and they don't pay any attention to technique or style. You'll pay a price for this later on, because all of that patterning you get in your body actually creates maps in your brain, and those stay there a long time. So if you don't get really good habits, get it really in your body, in your brain at the beginning, then you'll always have problems dancing. And so it's really, really important to give yourself opportunity to repeat these basic patterns many times. It's not a bad thing when you're a beginning dancer to simply put the music on, get in front of a mirror, and just work on these various elements we're going to teach you in this video. You will thank yourself later for giving you this opportunity. So we're going to start now and give you, first of all, just the basic foot patterning. That's where most everybody starts, but then we're going to add a lot of style and technique elements to that. So in salsa, we'll talk about music in a few minutes, but we're going to step 6 steps in an 8-count phrase. So, and this can vary based on the style and the place you're dancing and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later. But just to get us going, we're just going to do very simple. It's kind of on one. So we're going to do a lead's footwork. It will be with your left foot forward. And we're simply going to step forward on 1. We're going to leave that right foot where it is. We're going to rock back on 2. So it's a rock step. Rock forward on 1, rock back on 2, and then step back on 3. Okay, so let's do that much. And 1, 2, 3. Now the 4 is a pause count. And we'll talk about that a bit later. So some people, I count 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and people come and say, well, what happened to the 4? Well, we're pausing on that. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, pause 4. Now our weight's on our left foot. We're going to step back with the right. 5, rock forward 6, and step 7, and we're going to pause 8. So that's it. It's a basic rhythm pattern. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8, and 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8. Now we're going to turn to the back, and so that you can see it from behind. You can follow along if you like. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8, and 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8. Now we'll show it to you in partner style. Let's see, I think maybe they'll see better this way. So we're going to do it without connecting at this point. That'll be video number 2. You be sure and watch it. So here's what we're going to do. Conventionally, lead step forward with the left, follow step back with the right, and we do then the same rhythm pattern. Now, follows, ladies, you're just doing the exact same thing we did in the first part, except 4 counts later. So here it goes, and 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8, and 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8. All right, so that's element number 1, forward, backward, basic rhythm pattern. That's the fundamental of salsa. Really interesting thing is, you want to spend a tremendous amount of time learning this, and later you will avoid ever doing a forward, backward, basic. But this is where we start. We get it in our bodies this way. Now, we are going to teach you style and technique at the same time. And a lot of people save style till advanced dancing, and they say, oh, well, my gosh, style is like shines, or it's like doing something fancy and sort of letting your partner stay there while you do a lot of cool stuff. Well, of course, that's an important element of advanced style. But style begins with the very, very first lesson, with the forward and backward basic rhythm pattern. And the other thing that's a really important principle to the way we teach is that style and technique are almost always wed together. Okay? So that if you do good technique, you'll have good style. If you do good style, you'll probably have good technique. So we have just a few things, and this can actually be a little bit overwhelming, but as I said, just get in front of a mirror and work on each one of these. Okay, so now we're going to turn to the side, and I want to talk about posture. Okay, posture really has regional variations. So Cubans, people with a lot more African influence, they may be down more like this. Okay, most people in North America have more upright. This is a more European style upper body posture. And so we're going to be talking about that. That's the sort of posture that we want to present. This speaks to people in North America and actually all over the world. One of the people that had the greatest posture I've ever seen was a woman from Colombia, and she was amazing. Okay, so posture really, it begins with the shoulders and the head. So you want the head up, and it's typical for beginning dancers to look at your feet. That puts the head down, and it's not a pleasant thing for two people to be dancing together with their heads down. So you want your head up, your chin back, and your shoulders back and down. So shoulders back and down. This may be difficult for you. We work in a society where we work on computers all day, and we're hunched over with our head forward and our shoulders forward, and then when we go out dancing, we look like this. Okay? That isn't a pretty posture. So we want a confident posture, shoulders back and down, and you want to work on having that be your natural, comfortable posture.
And one thing about having your posture like this is that it's a representation of who you are. So if you're all hunkered over like this, it's just kind of showing that maybe you're at work all day and that's what you do with your life. And so if you have a nice, shoulders back, confident posture, then you're going to come across that much more confident in your dancing.
Now, we're going to spend more time on this in the second video where we're talking about salsa connection. But the functional part of this, the technique part of this, is when you dance with your partner, if you're both dancing with your heads down like this, then you're not really connecting. So when your head is up, your eyes are up, you're looking at your partner, you're connecting with your partner, you're broadcasting a sense of confidence, then you're going to connect really, really well. So people are looking at you across the floor. If you have great posture, wow, you're going to stand out. People are going to say, oh, that person really knows how to dance well. And it's simply just good posture. Okay. Now, number 2, the second part of this, is foot turnout. So a lot of people have a tendency to have a toe-in posture. So when we walk like this, you just have that posture. Well, we want your feet to turn out slightly. So when you step forward, your toes will turn out. This brings your thighs together. This brings your legs together. It's a very beautiful line, and it's really essential for you to have nice hip movement as well.
And for ladies, it sort of accentuates the length of your legs. It makes your hips stand out more, and it's nice.
Absolutely. So foot turnout, really essential. So we're going to step forward and back and back and forward. And each time the foot turns out slightly. Also, simply in terms of foot placement, and let's just move on right away to the sort of third element, which is we want a narrow slot. So I like to tell people this is really like one ski track instead of 2 ski tracks. So if you're cross-country skiing, then you're in 2 tracks and your legs sort of are apart. But if you try to walk in one track or like one rut in a road, then your feet have to go in front. So when they go in front and turned out, then this gives you a really nice, beautiful posture that looks beautiful and also allows your hips to, even if they're not moving, to look like they're moving. So that foot turnout, narrow foot slot is really important for really good technique and style. So that's a couple. Let's see. We've got posture, we've got foot turnout, we've got the narrow slot, and then the next element we're going to talk about is centering your weight. This is very difficult. Sometimes beginning dancers, and Jenny and I run into this all the time, simply can't shift their weight. So they just put their foot forward and back like this. And sometimes they get a little style to it, like this. It looks a little bit like Charleston, a little bit like Charleston. But that's not salsa. It can be another dance. It's just not salsa. So you need to center your weight on your foot with every step. Okay? So each time you step, you're going to center your weight.
And one way of knowing, actually, some people I think it's really hard to even understand how they know if they're moving their weight. So if you take a step, you should be able to lift the other foot up because all your weight should be right on that foot. So that can help you sort of figure out if you're doing it right or not.
Okay, great. So perfect opportunity there is actually lift your foot up if you have any doubt that you're not centering your weight. And sometimes when I teach, I'll have dancers just stop at this point and say, okay, lift up your other foot. If you can do that without moving your body back and forward, then you have good centered weight.
And for some of you, if it's just this is frustrating, I can't figure it out, we sometimes tell people at the beginning, which is where we're at, to stomp your steps out so you can actually hear them. Because if you do that, then you can hear I'm actually taking all my steps. I'm not just faking it out by going like this.
Excellent. So you'll notice Jenny gave you a great tip there, but she also said in the beginning. Because once you master this and know that you're actually shifting your weight, centering it each time, then another really important thing about the feet is that they should never come way off the floor unless it's an intentional sort of style move. And we'll teach you those, okay? So they always stay close to the floor. They're not necessarily dragging on the floor, but they're very close to the floor. So that's key.
Because part of our connection stuff too is being connected with every element in the music, your partner, yourself, and the ground. Because I think in general, when people you might start paying attention to how you take your steps when you walk around in general, like say you're walking to your car or whatever. If you're, stepping to the side or whatever, or, you just want to make sure that you're actually using your feet and connecting really nicely into the ground. And that's going to be part of your stability later on when it comes to dancing the salsa. Okay,
great. So we've talked about weight centering with the step. You've got that down. Now the next thing is, and this follows nicely, and that is in salsa there's no bounce. Sometimes when people get into the music, it's like, oh yeah, I love this music, and then you start dancing like this, okay? And there's a lot of bounce. Well, that can also be something for some dance, but it's not part of good salsa technique. So we want really smooth, really smooth. So your upper body, your shoulders stay straight, your upper body, your head stays up, and then all the action is down below.
And one way of really helping yourself to achieve this is by bending your knees slightly and sitting in your waist. I don't know if that's a good explanation, but you want to have free movement in your hips. So by bending your knees slightly, it's going to help you to absorb that bounce, and then you'll have a lot more ability to move your body without.
Okay, great. So no bouncing. And you can do this also when you practice in the mirror. You can just look at yourself in the mirror and say, are my eyes going up and down, or my shoulders going up and down? And you can tell right away.
And another thing about all these styles things is, like Sam keeps mentioning, this is an interesting thing to do, but maybe it's not salsa. If you're styling or having fun, maybe you can use these for just parts of your dance.
Absolutely.
To fill out your style, but not, it's not technically beneficial.
That's great. Okay, now, the tendency of dancers once they get going is to slide into what I call a box step. And note when we do, and let's just do a basic here, this is a rock step. So we're rocking forward and back, okay? So it's a rock. Rock and together. The key thing about the rock step is the foot that has the weight on it at the beginning stays where it is through those 3 counts. 1, 2, 3, and I haven't moved my right leg. Jenny hasn't moved her left leg. When we finish 5, 6, 7, now my weight is firmly on my left foot. 5, 6, 7, and I haven't moved my left foot. So you don't move one foot, then you don't move the other foot. Now, some people get into what I call a box step, and that is they step forward, they step together, and they step back. They step back, and forward. So you see it's kind of like a box, 2, 3, or a rectangle. Okay, so it's kind of a box step. And once you get used to it and you're just going away, then you'll have a tendency to have your feet start slipping. And this is sometimes just because the rhythm's in your body, you're allowing yourself to be a little bit looser, and then it turns into a box step. That can be okay too for style elements. But for really good, technically great salsa, one that connects with your partner so your feet are at the same place, then that is not a really good thing to do. So watch out for the box steps.
And part of this, I always say, it's sort of the difference between enunciating and mumbling. And if you turn your basic into a box, it's sort of mumbling that. And so if you're leading and you're trying to express something to your partner with your body, you want to make sure you're enunciating so that your partner can understand what you're doing.
Okay, great. Now, the next element of technique style that we want to talk about is the pause. And this is where you do nothing, basically. A lot of basic dancers, when you first start, it's like, oh my gosh, the music is so fast, and it's all I can do to get those steps in there, and the pause sort of goes away. So the 3 counts get stretched over the 4 counts. And what happens when you do that is that you lose, basically, the basic rhythm pattern. The rhythm pattern is step, 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 pause, step, 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 pause, step, 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 pause. And that's going to be throughout all the elements of the dance. That's why it's so fundamental to get that right now. So the steps are to the music. Step, step, step is on the beat, beat, beat of the music. And the pause is a beat in the music that you don't step onto. So what happens is if you lose the pause, then you'll move away from having that really crisp connection with the music. And that's fundamental to staying connected with your partner, to really being connected with the music, to really being clear in your body, to having the whole thing look really, really, really great. So the pause is important. I sometimes say it's as important as cheese is on pizza. So if you don't have it, it ain't quite the same. Okay, so that's really important. Now, a couple of other things we want to go over, and then we'll be through with our basic style technique elements of just this basic. Okay, we're just on the basic. One thing that I want to talk about is hands and arms. Another thing that beginners always do, the arms hang down like this. It's like, and you're dancing with this. Okay, I suppose if you want to incorporate an Irish step dance element to it, then you can do that. But then you want to do it with a great deal of style and really clear up our body positioning there. But that's really not salsa either. So what we want are arms bent. Okay? I like them just a little bit more than a 90-degree angle. A 90-degree angle is a little bit too much, so just relax a little bit more. And then your arms, just if you're, let your arms drop to the side, then just simply lift them up. Then if you're just before your 90 degrees, there's a fairly comfortable position there. And as you do your basic, then your arms should be in this position, and they simply rotate around as you do the basic. So you just let them relax, and they're there. Okay. Now this the arm then is bent. Both of them should be. And if you're connected with your partner with one hand, you don't let the other arm drop. That happens so often, even advanced dancers, when you watch them, some of them will let that arm drop. It's not good technique, and it's certainly not good style. This is much more attractive than this is. This just says, who cares? This says, hey, I'm ready to go here.
And also for follows, talking about our technique being functional, this looks good. It accentuates your hips again, but also it makes your hands available for your lead. So if your arm is down here, then he's actually going to have to reach over and grab your arm.
Exactly, or he's going to have to say, please give me your hand, and that takes time. Okay? Yeah. So now we've talked about the arm. Let's talk a little bit about wrists and hands. So the wrist should be fairly straight, relaxed, not stiff, not hyperextended here, but certainly not this doggy wrist kind of thing. You know, I go through periods where I wind up doing the doggy wrist thing. It's really not attractive, and so I have to work on that. So your arm straight, your hand is an extension of that, so it's an attractive line. For guys, you can just hold your hands. Typically, your hands are going to be up, but if you just have them loose, then by themselves, then just open, not a tight fist, but just curved fingers is perfectly nice. And for ladies?
Well, I've danced with a lot of follows in classes, and a lot of women have a different sort of degree of stiffness. And what I'd like to emphasize for ladies and for our development of our partner connection later is to have a moving posture with your hands. You don't want to just be rigid like a zombie, right? You just want to be able to move around, but the point is you want to extend the lines of your body. You want to have straight fingers. You don't want to just be like that or anything, but just make them relaxed and stylish, but be ready to be malleable and to be present in all parts of your hands, because we use our hands to communicate like a ton of what we're doing in salsa. So I'm hoping that comes across clear.
Okay. So, and ladies, you want your hands a little bit more, maybe with the fingers extended a little bit more, in a prettier position than like a guy, which would just be sort of straight on like this. So feel free to work out your own little personal style, and then let your hands rotate and be natural. Another thing you want to avoid is sometimes when I get people to hold their hands up, then they sort of lock in.
Yeah.
So then they're just like really rigid, and that makes their shoulders and everything else rigid. So just watch that a little bit. Okay, so last little element in terms of style, technique, is hips. Okay, this can be really technically very complicated, and it can drive you mad because it's like, oh my gosh, when do I worry about my hips? What I'd like to suggest is that as you begin to develop a really great style and technique, that you focus on narrow foot styling, the foot turnout, and then basically you're going from a straight leg to a bent leg to a straight leg when you do this step. So the leg is bent, then it goes straight, and that will actually make your hips move back and forth. I would certainly never suggest that you concentrate a lot on the hips at the beginning. Concentrate on your feet, because your feet are actually what make your hips move. And if you have the foot pattern in the narrow slot, shift the weight, then it's going to be, you're going to have nice looking hips. And then as you get really comfortable with that, you won't have bad habits in your hip pattern. So if you're like trying to force your hips out, that is not at all good. You just want to work on your feet, and then your hips will come as you relax. And you don't need to worry too much about that. So it can be technically complicated, but I'd say just relax. Okay, so that's element number one, basic forward-backward rhythm pattern. We do that together as partners, and and all the elements of style and technique that are with that. Please take a lot of time to practice all this, and be patient with yourself, because this will pay off hugely as you move on in learning to salsa dance.
And one thing I'd like to recommend, if you just are starting salsa, you're flipping this video on for the first time, you're probably going, oh, what a bah. You people are talking about a ton of things. Why don't you just pick one thing for the beginning and focus on that? And once you get, okay, I think I understand about keeping my feet in a single track, then you can be like, oh, what am I doing with my head and my shoulders, instead of looking down at your feet. Okay, now I'm going to work on that. And it's very helpful. Put on a song, dance, focusing on your feet. Put on the next song, think about two things, and then so forth and so on. Don't try to think of everything at once, because it's just all going to go down the drain.
But you got the video, so keep returning, watch it again, and say, oh, yeah, right. I forgot I'm doing the box step now. I better watch that one. So use the video.
On, when you're starting to watch some of our later videos, you're going to be like so absorbed in the learning process that maybe your basics are going to go down the drain. So come back, focus on the basics over and over again. I talk to lots of intermediate level dancers who are like, man, I just feel like I could really hang out with the fundamentals for a while, and that's completely acceptable.
All right, now that you have the style and technique elements down on the basic forward-backward rhythm pattern, we're going to teach 3 more of the 10 elements really quickly. So you're going to feel like, okay, I've almost got half of them, and that'll be in this video in this next 3 minutes. Okay, here we go. So the first basic rhythm pattern, remember, we're stepping forward in the slot and back. It's a rock step. The second one, we're simply going to step to the side. Lead, you'll step to the left, follows to the right, except we'll show it the same together. So we're going to step 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. Rock step forward, rock step to the side. Tip, be sure to actually put your weight centered here on this rock step so that you have no weight here. And then shift back, and then shift your weight and pause. Watch very carefully, so get in front of the mirror and make sure you're not just putting your foot out like this and kind of leaning over, this kind of like bell pattern of swinging back and forth. So you put your weight on it and back and forward and or to the side. Hips.
So if you're working on your hip movement, this is a great step to practice with. Because when you actually transfer your weight, it's moving your hips out. So if you're taking all 3 steps, you can't help but move your hips out. So if your hips is one of the elements that you're working on, do la CUCARACHA to practice.
Great. Okay, forward, backward, basic rhythm pattern, CUCARACHA side to side. As we go from here to the front, to the side, then the next one is to the back. And it's back diagonal. So we're going to step back with the left foot, rock forward and together. To the other side, rock forward and together. This is called a CUMBIA. 2, 3, element number 3. So 1, 2, 3, pause. 5, 6, 7, pause. Step, 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 step. Remember, keep your hands up, and you don't want to swing out too far. Okay, swinging out too far causes you to lose connection with your partner. So stick it right there. All right, now, 4th element, it's called an open break. So when Jenny and I do basic rhythm pattern, follows, you're going to step back with your right, leads forward with the left. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. When we do that, our bodies stay pretty much the same distance apart. So it moves back and forth. If we're connected by the hands, then it'll stay even closer. All right? And we'll talk about that in another video. But this 4th element is called an open break. It's primarily a leads move, or leads element. So instead of, leads the only difference, instead of rocking forward with the left foot on 1, you're going to rock back with the left foot on 1. Foot follows, you're going to do exactly the same thing you always do. Basic rhythm pattern. So you're going to go back as the lead goes back, and notice that open space between us, hence open break. Okay? This is really fundamental move to getting a lot of other kind of move elements started. So the fundamental open break, really key. Back rock with the left, then back rock with the right. All right? So we'll do one basic, then we'll do an open break so you see what it looks like. Here's the basic. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6. Open break. Back step, and back step, and back to basic. Here's an open break, and back step, back to basic. All right, 4th element, all totally cool. Let's see. I guess that's the things we need to cover on that. Let's now move to music. Music is really, really important to think about from the very beginning of salsa dancing. For a lot of people who have not grown up with Latin American music, this is hard. If the sort of top 40 music in North America, just real straight on beat. You know, you can't miss it. You totally can't miss it. So a lot of people who grew up on top 40 music hear salsa, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many layers of rhythm, I don't have any clue where it is. Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about the basic sort of structural elements of the music, just to give you a very simple understanding. And then it will help you then dance with it, and we'll give you some hints on that. And we'll give you some visual illustrations to help you with this. So salsa is still basically an 8-count structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But there are 2 4-counts, and know how our rhythm pattern is split up into 2 4-counts. 1, 2, 3, pause, 5, 6, 7. And the 1 is different than the 5. So that these are asymmetrical 4-counts, and the way that we know that and the way we can hear that is there is another rhythm pattern operating underneath the 8, the simple straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's called clave. Clave means key, and it also refers to an instrument that usually is 2 hard wooden sticks, and one is held loosely in one hand and hit with the next one, so it has a real clear sound. And that, you either have a 2-3 or a 3-2 clave. A 2-3 clave means on the first 4 counts there are 2 beats to the clave, and on the last 4 counts there are 3 beats to the clave. How the heck does this work? Well, if it's a 2-3 clave, then on the first 4 counts the clave will be on the 2-3, so it's 1, 2, 3, not on the 4, and then 5, 6 and a half, and 8. So it's 1. So you want to do the 8, and we'll see if we can clap this together. So you do the 8.
Okay.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's your basic rhythm pattern. So since the clave is not the same on the 2 8 counts, you feel the difference between them. My suggestion is, if you're new to salsa music, get salsa music, put it in your car, put it on your mobile player, whatever brand you have, and clap out the clave. Find it, hear it, clap out the 8 count, find where the 1 is. Do it in your car, bang on the steering wheel, whatever.
Some salsa music, the clave is really pronounced, and you can hear the actual wooden sticks being played, or you'll hear maybe the drummer playing it on another instrument. So on those you can try to pick out the clave, but in a lot of salsa the clave you can't hear it, but it does exist behind the structure of the music. So.
Okay, so it's implied in the music. All the musicians are actually listening for that in the implication of it, and it's really built up in stacking all these rhythms together. So even if it's not actually played, it's there. Okay, so then 3-2 is just the reverse. So it's 1, 2 and a half, and 4, and then 6, 7. So that's the other half of that. So that gives you a basic sense. Now, some other tips in terms of dancing. What I suggest you do, and I often have classes do this when I teach to the elements of the music, and that is, for most people in North America, the 1 is probably the most common beat that you'll hear. And so in many places in North America, you will want to step on the 1. It's actually, in terms of the clave, it's sort of a syncopation feel, so that there is a kind of like, oh, something should go in there, and then if you step on it, then that's putting something in before the clave. So that I suggest, okay, if you can hear the 1, start dancing on the 1. But as soon as you can hear the 2, which is the clave, da, 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 then start dancing on the clave, and there are big movements around the country that says you should dance on the clave, or sometimes it's called on 2. So I have students then dance on 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have them dance on the 3 and on the 4 and the 5. Simply so, as you're dancing these very simple basic rhythm patterns, then you're really, really concentrating on where is the beat in this music. And I find that that's a great skill drill. We offer skill drills in this video series. That's a great skill drill. So what you should do, worry just about basic. Don't start doing anything fancy, just basic. But say, okay, first of all, I have to hear the 1. Then I have to hear the clave. Now I'm going to dance on the 1. Then I'm going to dance on the 2. Knowing I'm dancing on the clave, hearing the clave, dancing on that, and then actually dancing on different steps throughout the music. So it's a difficult thing. One other tiny little thing I want to cover, and that is, let me just say it straight out. This is a little tip for ladies. Ladies, I know that sometimes guys have a little more difficulty getting the rhythm than you will have. And yet it's your job in following to dance with the lead. And yet the lead is dancing on the 4 1/3 or something like that. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, first of all, if the lead is dancing on any beat and dancing fairly consistently on that beat, then dance with the lead. Okay? And that's really, really important. It will also be a challenge for you to say, well, I really feel the 1, but he's dancing on the 3 or on the 7. And it's like, well, okay, I'm going to try in my own body to feel where that is in that rhythm. But the tip I want to give you is if the lead is dancing off of the beat, then I suggest that very gently, and we'll talk about this more in Salsa Connection, you're connected by hands, and that is either push a little bit or drag a little bit to help get that lead to move onto the beat. And that will help a lot. So I know it's a challenging part, particularly for beginning dancers. You've got so much to think about, and to try to think about the music is really adding more and more to it. But we are dancing to the music, and the music is really, really fundamental to salsa. It's not ambience. It's not just sort of for the mood. It helps you. You're dancing to the music, in the music. You're listening to it is all really great. So don't delay thinking about the music and the importance to that, because that will also get embodied. Now, just to close this video out, I would just like to talk a little bit about how when you go to different places, you'll find different styles, and sometimes you have difficulty dancing with people when you go to a different place. It's important for us to think just a little bit, and nobody that I know of has ever done like a really, really extensive study of all the different salsa styles. But there are a lot that are pretty common, and it's really good to just like go through those really quickly. Typically, we call what we're dancing here slot salsa because we're in a slot. So we just are right here, and notice that when we have narrow foot pattern, we're dancing together, then we're dancing in the slot. And most of the moves that we do, I'll just do a little quick right turn, it just stays in the slot, so we never step out. So when we get on a dance floor, if we can make our little slot, we're good to go. Okay, so you can dance slot salsa. You can dance that in various ways. Typically, we're in Colorado, and I think in the Midwest, the on-one is the most typical. So you're going 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. I was in Vancouver a year or so ago, and people dance on 3 there a lot. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you'll find that when you do that, where you dance in the music feels differently. And that it's really fun to do that and do dance on a different beat long enough that you can kind of get the feel of, oh, that is really interesting. Because as a dancer, you're making rhythm with your feet and your body. So you're really like another musician. Except you're improvising. You can be anywhere you want to in there. And so to dance on different beats is really good. I mentioned a lot of people like to dance on clave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's basic slot salsa. So another type of slot salsa dancing is New York on 2. And if anybody's gone to New York City and gone salsa dancing, they know this is an important style. It was developed by Eddie Torres, and the lead steps back, the follow steps forward, so the lead invites the follow to come forward. 1, 2, 3, pause 4, and 5, 6, 7, pause 8, and 1, 2, 3, pause 4, 5, 6, 7, pause 8. Now, in dancing this style, what's interesting is the follow is dancing on the front, doing the moves more on the front half of the 8 count. And that simply shifts everything. So if you're used to dancing slot salsa on 1 in the kind of Midwestern style, then New York style will be really difficult for you to make that shift. The break is in a different place, you're moving in a different direction in the music, and so you can see just even those little shifts. But then all the moves are basically all the same. So it's simply moving the dancing around within the 8 count. A couple of other things in terms of style. If you go to the West Coast, often people identify it as LA style. This is a style with a lot of really fast turns. So it's a very hyper style with a lot of fast turns and even lifts and a lot of dips and real flash style moving. So you may identify that. In opposition to that is Cuban style casino. Now, casino is not a slot style. It's more of a rotational style, and it has a very different feel to it. So that as you're dancing, you're actually moving around one another, and it has a really different feel to it. The turns are slow-moving turns rather than fast spinny turns. So that traditional casino then is just that slow moving kind of turning. There are many different style, many different moves on casino, and we love to do casino, so we integrate casino with the slot style dancing, and it's really a nice combination. Once you know casino moves, then you can dance those in a circle with other groups of people or with other couples, and that's then known as Rueda de Casino, which is a circular form. The moves are called, everybody knows these moves, and these moves are executed at the same time, and we do a lot of that as well. So the key thing I wanted to simply show here is that there are a lot of different styles of salsa dancing. Depends on where you go. You'll find people dancing in different ways. Sometimes you'll find even in one locale, people who are doing different things. Oh, also if you just go to someplace like Mexico, in Mexico, salsa, what is called salsa, is largely cumbia steps. So they restrict their vocabulary, the move elements, to primarily cumbia steps. So the key thing is go salsa dancing. Try it out wherever you are, wherever you're traveling. If you get where you want to experience something more than what you've done before, then go to another country and go salsa dancing. It's really fun.
And listen to the music. There's lots of different styles of music too.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's volume 1, our introduction to the basics, and there's much more to come in the following videos. Thanks very much.
Enjoy.
Que mata y hasta pienso que tortura. Solo con el corazón me pide ayuda. Se acelera más mi palpitar cuando me saluda. Este chico es mío, que me quedo muda. Está tan bueno que cuando lo veo olvido todo. Me olvido de todo, me olvido de todo. Está tan bueno. Me va a dar una sorpresa. ¿Será que por fin él me quiere? Hombre, presenta la excusa que me acaba la fiesta. Tan bueno que hasta olvido todo. Me olvido de todo. Me olvido de todo. Tiene unos labios hermosos y un caminar que para el tráfico y todo el mundo lo quiere mirar. Con sus ojitos abiertos de par en par, que me mire para decirle, negro.